Hi everyone. Today I want to share a book that really touched me. It's called 30 Million Words, Building a Child's Brain by Dr. Dana Suskind. Dr. Suskind is not only a professor and a surgeon, but also the founder of the 30 Million Words Initiative. Her work is based on powerful research showing just how important early language exposure is for a child's brain development. She's been recognized by the University of Chicago, worked with Hillary Clinton's Too Small to Fail initiative, and even contributed to White House programs focused on closing the achievement gap. Pretty amazing, right? Now, the reason I decided to talk about this book is because of its final chapter. When I read it, something really clicked for me, and I felt I had to share it with others. In that chapter, Dr. Suskind mentions a writer I really admire, Atul Gawande. He's a well-known thinker and doctor in the US, and he talks about this fascinating idea called a pause in progress of thought. Basically, when society stops moving forward in certain ways because we ignore things we can't see. Let me give you an example he shares. In the 1800s, medicine had two major breakthroughs, anesthesia and antisepsis, which means sterilizing tools and hands to prevent infection. Guess which one people accepted faster? Yep, anesthesia. Why? Because pain is loud and obvious. Doctors could hear patients screaming, so of course they wanted to stop the pain. But infections? Those were invisible. No one could see bacteria back then, so the idea of sterilizing hands didn't seem important. In fact, when one doctor insisted on hand washing to save mothers in childbirth, people thought he was crazy. He was literally sent to a mental hospital. The point is, when something isn't visible, it's easy to overlook, and that's when our thinking gets stuck. Now, what does that have to do with parenting and this book? Well, think about this. Most of us only start noticing big differences between kids once they're in school, elementary, middle school, even college. That's when we say, wow, how did the gap between these kids get so wide? But the truth is, the gap started forming much earlier, during the toddler years, or even before the age of 3. When kids are all crawling around, babbling, looking adorable, we assume they're all the same. But behind the scenes, their brains are developing in very different ways, based on how much language they're exposed to. And that is exactly why this book matters so much. Now here's where the research gets really powerful. Dr. Dana Suskind, together with a team of scientists, discovered something astonishing. By the age of 3, children from different families are exposed to vastly different amounts of language, up to a 30 million word gap. That's right, a 30 million word difference. This gap isn't about how loving or well-meaning parents are. It's not about money or social status. The key difference lies in one simple thing: how much parents talk to their children. Now, that 30 million includes repeated words, of course, but still, it's a massive gap. And in the final chapter of the book, there's a striking observation: every country carefully protects its natural resources: oil, coal, forests, electricity, water. But there's one powerful resource we often overlook: a parent's words. It's free. It's abundant. And it has the power to shape a child's brain like nothing else. If every parent understood that their everyday conversations could literally strengthen their child's brain, helping form rich, healthy neural connections, we'd realize just how priceless this invisible resource really is. But because we can't see words, we don't measure them, we can't sell or package them, we often forget how important they are. And that brings me to a message I really want to share with every parent: let's not fall into intellectual stagnation when it comes to parenting. Don't wait until your child is struggling in school to look back and wonder if something could have been different. We need to start right from birth, talking, engaging, connecting. So how big is this gap, really? Let's look at the numbers. Between the ages of 13 to 36 months, children from professional families hear about 487 utterances per hour. Working-class families, 301 utterances per hour. Families on welfare, just 178 utterances per hour. Parents might be busy working, or children are left with the TV. But here's the key: hearing words from a screen is not the same as hearing them from a human face. And we'll get into why that matters in a moment. Now fast forward to age 3. Children from professional families will have heard around 45 million words. Children from families on welfare? Only 13 million words. That's a 32 million word gap by age 3. Vocabulary-wise, the differences are just as striking. Professional family children know around 1,116 words. Welfare family children know only 525 words. That's a gap of nearly 600 words, and again, this is in English. The numbers might shift slightly in other languages, but the pattern stays the same. Here's another powerful insight: 95% of the words children use are the same as their parents. Think about that. Kids are mirrors. If we want to know how we sound, just listen to how our children speak. If parents are impatient, harsh, or use strong language, we can't expect children to be polite or calm. But if parents are thoughtful in how they speak, children tend to reflect that tone. And here's something that shocked me: by just 9 months old, the learning gap has already started. By 3rd grade, a child's reading level will largely determine the kind of college they might attend. That gap grows wider over time, and it starts early. So where did this discovery come from? Well, Dr. Suskind is a cochlear implant surgeon. She works with children who are deaf or hard of hearing. Because this treatment wasn't common at first, she was able to follow her patients closely over time and see how their development unfolded. She noticed something strange: 2 children with the same surgery had completely different outcomes. One child, named Zach, received his implant at 8 months. That day, when he heard sound for the first time, what they call his hearing birthday, his face lit up with wonder. His family was emotional and deeply involved. From that day on, they talked with him constantly, engaging him in conversations and filling his world with words. By age 3 or 4, Zach was speaking fluently, joking, learning in a regular classroom, and keeping up with other kids with no problem at all. But then there was Michelle. She got her implant at 7 months, even earlier than Zach. But by the time she was older, she was attending a school for children with disabilities. Her language was slow to develop. The surgery had worked, but something was missing. Dr. Suskind visited both families and saw the difference. Michelle's household was much quieter. After the implant, no one made a special effort to talk with her, and because she'd started with no hearing, her ability to catch up fell further and further behind. Teachers and classmates didn't expect much from her either. Eventually, despite having full hearing, Michelle was labeled as a special needs student. That contrast shook Dr. Suskind to her core. She dove into existing research and found 2 scientists, Betty Hart and Todd Risley, who had studied 55 families. They installed recording devices, with consent, to capture interactions between parents and children over time. Their findings were the same: the most critical difference between households wasn't wealth, wasn't education, it was how many words children heard. And that difference in language exposure? It impacts a child's IQ, vocabulary size, processing speed, learning ability, and even their long-term potential for success. How parents shape a child's brain: the power of words, inspired by 30 million words. We now know a powerful truth backed by science. The words a child hears in their earliest years shape the very structure of their brain. Here's a striking comparison. In just 1 year, children from professional families hear 166,000 words of encouragement and only 26,000 prohibitions. Children from working-class families hear 62,000 encouraging words and 36,000 prohibitions. Children from welfare families? Only 26,000 encouraging words, but a staggering 57,000 prohibitions. By age 4, the gap widens dramatically. A child from a professional household will have heard 664,000 encouraging words. A welfare recipient child? Just 104,000, with 228,000 negative words. This language exposure literally rewires the brain because of a concept called neuroplasticity. That's the brain's ability to form and prune neural connections based on what it experiences. Even as babies, children release stress hormones like cortisol when faced with emotional tension. Cortisol, if constantly elevated, is linked to long-term issues, heart disease, anxiety, even depression. Researchers once conducted a powerful experiment. A mother is happily interacting with her baby, smiling and talking. Suddenly, she freezes, expressionless. The baby, startled, tries to win back her attention, smiling, babbling, reaching out. But the mother remains still. Soon, the baby bursts into tears. When the mom finally softens and returns to a warm interaction, the baby takes a while to recover. Now imagine how many mothers, overwhelmed by stress, unknowingly repeat this still face experiment at home every day. Some go beyond emotional withdrawal and yell at their babies in frustration. When this kind of environment becomes routine, the baby's brain shifts into survival mode. The result? A significant drop in their ability to learn, engage, and self-regulate. Here's why. The infant brain is like a supercomputer in its building phase, neurons connecting at lightning speed. But if those connections aren't used, they're pruned. Gone forever. That's why learning a new language is easy for a toddler, but tough for an adult. Take childhood cataracts, for example. If treated early, vision develops normally. But if the condition goes untreated for too long, even after surgery, the child may never regain full sight. Why? Because the brain has already shut down the unused visual pathways. Even Mark Zuckerberg struggled with this. Despite being a genius, his attempt to learn Chinese led to an awkward moment where he meant to say 1 billion Facebook users, but it came out sounding like 11 users. Pronunciation matters. Timing matters. Childhood matters. Now that we understand the why, the next question is how to support a child's brain through language. This is where the book's core idea comes in. The 3TS method. Developed by Dr. Dana Suskind, this approach is simple, science-backed, and life-changing. Keycap 129. Be emotionally present. When talking with your child, follow their lead. For example, if you're reading a book and they get distracted by the bedsheet, don't force them to listen. Instead say, "Oh, you saw the bedsheet. Want to touch it? Let's explore it together." That's tuning in. If they point to a previous page and say, "That one," go back and reread it. This back and forth teaches them that their interests matter and makes language meaningful. We also use child-directed language like "drink your milk" or "time to go potty." Yes, these baby-style words work. Because repetition, rhythm, and emotional tone help babies learn. The secret is: observe, understand, respond. Name their feelings. Narrate their actions. Help them make sense of the world. Keycap 2. Talk more, enrich their world. The second T is about narrating everything. Let them hear language tied to real-life experiences. Instead of silence or screen time, talk to them. Look at that big tree. See the dog? What would we do if it came close? Even if the child isn't speaking yet, their brain is wiring up every word. Avoid vague words like this or that. Say, "I love this painting you made." Not "I love this." Be specific. Also, don't just describe what's in front of them. Stretch their imagination. What if a dinosaur came to visit? Or, what do you think we'll see at the zoo tomorrow? This decontextualized talk strengthens language and thinking skills. If your child says hug, expand it. Are you feeling tired? Want daddy to give you a big hug? You're modeling full sentences and they'll copy you soon enough. 3. Take turns, build conversations. Babies might not talk, but they can take turns. Avoid one-way commands like, "Don't touch that." "Stop moving." Instead, explain why. "This stove is hot. What would happen if we touched it?" "That's right, we'd get hurt." Use cause and effect language. Let them think, not just obey. That's how they learn to reason and self-regulate. Bonus T, turn it off. Turn off the TV. Put away the phone. Why? Because screens don't tune in. They don't talk back. They don't take turns. A tablet can't notice your child's feelings. A cartoon doesn't care if your toddler throws a toy. Your child learns through interaction. They toss a ball, you laugh. They cry, you comfort. This feedback loop teaches them what's okay and what's not. It's how empathy, social skills, and emotional intelligence are born. Without it, Kids may mimic what they see on screens without understanding the consequences. In short, children's brains are built through everyday moments. Talk more. Tune in. Take turns. And turn off the noise. Because every word you say is wiring their future. Sometimes we say, my kid's already in elementary school, how can they live without a phone? Even their homework's online now. But here's the thing, phones and TVs are like nutritional supplements. They're not the main course. Sure, they can fill a gap when needed, but they can't replace the real nourishment that shapes a child's brain. That nourishment comes from meaningful interactions, especially with parents. So how exactly does the 3T strategy, tune in, talk more, and take turns, connect to a child's development? 1. Building mathematical thinking. The author shares a fascinating example. A fast food chain in the US once ran a promo. They upgraded their quarter-pound burger to a third-pounder for the same price. Sounds like a great deal, right? But sales didn't go up. Why? Because many customers thought a quarter-pound, 1/4, was more than a third, 1/3. After all, 4 is bigger than 3. This real-life story reflects a deeper issue. Many American kids struggle with math because they're introduced to it too late. By second grade in the US, students are still behind what preschoolers in some countries already know. So when should we start building math logic? As early as possible. And the good news? Parents can do it through simple conversations. For example, while buttoning up a coat, you could say, 1 button, 2 buttons, 3 buttons. Can you find the second one? That's early number recognition in action. Or try this. This toy is a circle. Let's feel, does it feel round to you? This one's a square, and that's a triangle. These little moments introduce shapes and spatial thinking. Now, traditionally we think girls aren't as good at math as boys, but studies show that's not because of ability, but because of how we talk to them. With girls, we often focus on colors and emotions. With boys, it's numbers, tools, and action. That subtle difference in language input can shape their future abilities. So, if we use math-rich language with girls from the start, they can be just as strong in math and often even better. 2. Mindset, fixed versus growth. Kids tend to develop one of two mindsets. A fixed mindset, where they feel the need to constantly prove they're smart and avoid challenges. A growth mindset, where they believe they can improve and learn from failure. Which one they adopt depends a lot on the words they hear from us. For instance, when we say, "You're so smart," or "You're so talented," we're actually reinforcing a fixed mindset. But if we say, "You practiced really hard yesterday, look how much better you are today," we're rewarding effort, not just results. That simple shift encourages resilience, curiosity, and lifelong learning. 3. Developing self-control. You've probably heard of the famous marshmallow test. A child is told, "You can eat this marshmallow now, or wait 5 minutes and get 2. Some kids eat it right away. Others wait. Decades later, those who waited tended to do better in school, work, and even relationships. So how do we help kids build self-control? It starts with how we talk to them. Commanding language like, "Stop watching TV," or "Do your homework now," teaches kids to rely on external control. Instead, use gentle suggestions. "Do you think it'll feel better to finish your homework first, and then relax?" This encourages them to make smart choices on their own, strengthening their internal sense of control. 4. Shaping empathy and morality. Let's say you ask your child to help sweep the floor. If you just say, "Help me sweep," they might ignore you. But if you say, "Can you be my helper today?" you'll likely get a very different response. Why? Because using a noun like helper creates a sense of identity. Kids want to be a helper. But if they mess up and you say, "You're a liar," that identity can stick in a harmful way. Instead of labeling the person, label the action. That wasn't an honest thing to do. This helps children separate what they did from who they are and gives them room to grow. So whether it's math, mindset, self-control, or empathy, every one of these vital skills is shaped by how we speak to our children. Now think about this. Isn't it true that a parent's words are one of the most powerful forces in society? More powerful than books, backpacks, or basketballs. The quality of our daily conversations with our children, shaped by the 3Ts, is what sets the foundation for their future. If we all practiced the 3Ts, we'd see three big changes. 1. Bridging the education gap. Great schools and teachers are not evenly spread anywhere in the world. But every parent has the power to create a rich learning environment through simple, intentional conversation. 2. Empowering parents. Many families are willing to spend thousands on homes in good school districts. But the truth is, education doesn't start with a school. It starts with you and how you talk to your child from day one. 3. Creating a growth-oriented society. A society that values effort, learning, and emotional resilience doesn't happen overnight. It starts with raising kids who hear words that say, "You can try again. You're learning. Mistakes are okay." In the end, the real starting line in life isn't preschool or elementary school. It's whether or not we, as parents, are willing to talk with our kids, talk with intention, and talk in a way that builds their brains. The 3Ts, tune in, talk more, take turns, might just be the most powerful gift you'll ever give your child. And once those early years are gone, there's no going back. This book is a must-read for every parent.